Hey guys, I am Big and Scary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay from Team EchO, this time featuring Game 2 versus Team EchO's Bait, our red Terran in the top right hand side, and EchO's Virus, our blue Terran in the bottom left. This is Game 2, the best of 3, first game going to Virus, because he did some fantastic work with some proxy factory as well as a proxy barracks, and then a nice drop of some Hellions in a main base. Roasting those SCVs up, nice little glaze on top of those SCVs. It tasted delicious, I'm sure. Poor Bait, he scouted that factory almost instantly, but he never really dealt with it. He got some Marines down there, but they were quickly shooed away by the Hellions, and then he was like, it's fine, I've got a wall off, it'll be okay. No, it was not okay, unfortunately. And we're going to see if Bait decides to change up his build, maybe take a bit more of an aggressive stance against Virus. And will Virus resort to proxy again? I don't think so. I think that's basically a one and done, especially when it's best of 3. It's definitely the first one that you do, and then if you lose, you're like, okay, for serious this time, guys. And otherwise, nothing. I'm not 100% sure what this map is called. I've never played on it, I can assure you. However, it kind of looks like a core from Portal, if you've played that. So I think it's like that. It's like the Space Core. See, we're in space. So that's pretty neat. We do have the barracks being constructed by Virus just right on top of that ramp. Going to be dealing with any sort of scouting that could be coming out of Bait. He is moving out with his first SCV at pretty much the exact same time Virus is moving out with his. Both pretty much with identical builds. Both grabbing gas, both building their barracks, except Bait, once again, not guarding that ramp. Not going to be preventing any scouting that could be coming out of Virus, which in my opinion is a mistake. It's always good to prevent information to be known to an enemy. And so you can do that pretty easily with Marines. It's definitely easy to cut down those SCVs by the time they get into your main base, but we can see that that SCV is going to be arriving in very, very short order from Virus, and he's going to be able to poke in there and see exactly what's going on, see that one gas, see that barracks, and with the Marine being constructed, that SCV will be cut down quickly, but still the scouting will have been had and it won't be a total wash. Supply depot being constructed by Virus, excellent timing there. He's just waiting for that SCV to show up. And constructing that supply depot in that location makes it so that SCV can't even poke up to see anything, including the second barracks that's being constructed. First geyser has been tapped, no second geyser, and in fact the orbital is very much delayed. You can see that the orbital's already been taken by Bait, and that's going to reflect a very serious lack of mineral income with that first mule dropping. We'll see that number skyrocket in a couple of seconds. Factory going down for Bait, as well as immediately throwing down a tech lab too, so that's going to be interesting. Will that tech lab be used in conjunction with the factory? I think that's a pretty safe assumption. SCV poking in once again. Oh no, was that SCV like super delayed in getting in there? No, the SCV had managed to poke in there. Didn't scout the other gas, didn't actually see it, but he might have noticed that there were no SCVs going back and forth, and that can be just as telling. Tech lab is done. Factory's going to be taking advantage of that tech lab, so that's going to be neat. Remember that Siege Tank Tech no longer requires a tech lab, so the only reason you'd get that is if you were going to be getting those siege tanks out in relatively quick amount. The reactor is definitely the thing that's popular right now, just because Widow Mines are pretty popular, very, very powerful, as well as those Hellbats. We've seen how incredibly effective those are. Reapers, though, have gotten a significant buff. Virus moving out with 2 of those Reapers, with 2 more on the production tab, and those Reapers are going to make short work of these Marines. So Virus just showing you how effective he was with harassment with those Hellions and those Hellbats, but these Reapers can be just as effective at killing Marines. However, they're going to have to deal with a Hellion coming out on the production tab right now, as well as a starport being constructed just on the right side. Will that Reaper make it far enough? And it does. The Hellion coming out just a moment too late to deny that scouting. The Reaper's going to see the starport as well as the tech lab and the reactor, so they don't know if they're going to be dealing with now. Well, I don't know. Tech lab on a factory and then a Hellion comes out, yeah, that's suspicious. That's suspicious as balls. You don't know if he's going to be researching Blue Flame, he's going to be doing some sort of all-in hyper-aggression, and then this is just for a medevac so he can do that drop, or is he going to be constructing siege tanks and this is just going to be like a traditional 1-1-1 build, which is what Bait is actually doing. So Virus is going to have to at least do one more suicidal scouting run. With 3 Reapers, he's just biding his time till the combat drugs can heal them back up into full health. The Marines are going to have to be very, very careful, but with the siege tank now popping out, even if these Marines get cleaned up, that siege tank's going to be able to take out those Reapers pretty quickly. Especially now that Siege Tank Tech is an instantaneous sort of thing. That Siege Tank just needs to siege up, and these Reapers are going to have to hightail it back home with one of them already being dead. Repositioning the first barracks to form a tech lab. We see a reactor being thrown down on the other one. Another barracks, which is probably destined for another reactor, as well as a factory. So this is going to be looking like a very traditional Marine siege tank build. I expect to see a starport coming out of Virus in relatively short order. Once he takes that CC, he is constructing the orbital command down at the natural, so Virus is going to be very much ahead, all things considered. Expending a nice scan there from Virus just to scout out exactly if there was that command center. I bet he wishes he had those thermal charges now, because he could have forced at least a cancel on that command center, but ultimately he wouldn't have wasted too much time forcing the pullback. It's really surprising not to see these siege tanks sieged up right now. I seriously suspect that's a misstep by Bait, because you could protect your entire mineral line just by having one sieged right here or here, or even one here and then over here to protect your command center. So yeah, those siege tanks are incredibly powerful defensive weapons, and I don't feel like Bait's using them to the best of his potential. However, even unsieged, they're incredibly intimidating. The nice positioning for the supply depot, exposing that those Reapers are indeed making their way into the mineral line, but no, he wishes he had those siege tanks positioned so that they could rain down fire on those Reapers moving around, succeeding in taking down one or two of those SCVs at the cost of one or two of the lives of the Reapers. Ultimately, the resources lost tab is pretty much neck and neck, as well as the fact that the orbital command was taken well in advance for the fact for Bait. So it's very surprising to see him only at 25 over 31. But remember that natural was taken and saturated by Virus. So yeah, he's going to have, even though he was a little bit behind in the mineral income early on, he's definitely skyrocketed back to the lead, and that reflects it. I mean, he's up by almost 500. At the same time, Bait finally feeling like he has enough back at home to protect him, and he does. He's positioned that siege tank in siege mode. He's definitely not going to have a problem with these Reapers. He's moving off with his own force to poke at that natural now that Virus has kind of exposed himself. His siege tank is firing on the supply depot, and his Marines are right on top of the supply depot. That's hilarious. That's terrible. That's terrible. That's very bad. Oh, will that supply depot go down? No, it does not. Excellent. Good job. Good job there by Bait, identifying that that supply depot was indeed very close to firing. I've done that, and it has been disastrous in the past. The siege tank getting just within range of the bunker so they can rain down fire, and the Viking doing its thing, getting just out of range of those Marines so that the siege tanks can indeed rain down fire on that bunker. It does go down. The Viking is taking quite a lot of health damage, only 11 health left. The medevac repositioning itself very quickly with those emergency boosters is going to be dropping off Marines on the right side, and that is within range of Virus's command center, so he knows that that drop is coming. It's really surprising not to see him reposition his Marines right away. There goes the scan. The siege tank's up on the high ground, preventing the repositioning of the siege tank from Bait. So this is going to be Marine versus Marine, and the attack happens just before Bait could actually push in. Oh no, Virus stemming very quickly to get in on top of those siege tanks, however not succeeding in taking any of them down. One of the medevacs goes down. Oh, that is absolutely disastrous for Virus, but fortunately for him, Virus does have two siege tanks up on the high ground, and he's making their presence known by taking out the unbuildable terrain. The siege tank's repositioning just on the bottom side of that ramp within range of that first siege tank. Oh no, forcing the unsiege. He's got to retreat. He's got to retreat before the Viking repositioning itself just out of range of that siege tank. And will Bait push forward so that he's within range of that? He does! Oh, one of them goes down almost instantly, and now it's two siege tanks versus one. This is so tense, especially because of the air superiority afforded by that Viking with only 11 health. Oh, hero Marine blasted into the wall. Fantastic. Fantastic. That last siege tank's going to get cleaned up, I think, by all three of these siege tanks, especially with one more being added into the bottom side, and Bait is going to have to retreat. I think with that, Bait is going to have to lick his wounds and go back home, but with that pressure, he succeeded in taking his own natural. Very, very much behind, all things considered, on the economy. 41 over 35. That natural for Virus has been well defended and well saturated for a very long time. However, Bait does have an intimidating force, and it's a field, and he's got nice map control. So he could take a third, or he could play the aggressor, and I think that's what he's doing. He's continually rallying over forces, and he's positioning his Marines up on the high ground with the siege tanks on low ground support. 3 siege tanks on the bottom make it so that Virus really can't do much to defend this push. The barracks are coming in. I suspect Virus is going to have to pull back and form some sort of siege tank line just beneath the barracks so that the Marines can't continue to push in unabated. But Bait unabated. Bait is repositioning his own siege tanks. Here comes the desperation push from Virus with SCVs in the lead, soaking up all that damage. So much more effective this time around, cleaning up pretty much everything on the low ground. And with the siege tank up in the high ground, it looks like all these Marines are going to get cleaned up. with the exception of just a handful, but with 2 siege tanks up on down on the low ground, shelling up within range, but they don't have vision. They don't have vision of that siege tank. They need to right away. The medevac moving just within range. The scan from Bait just to reveal that indeed those siege tanks are down there. One with only 13 health is going to get cleaned up by the first Banshee that's arriving. We do have another siege tank. I thought I saw another Banshee on the production tab. Do I? No, I do not. Cool. So the first Banshee is out on the field. No, I do. Haha. Banshee on the low ground down to the natural. How many SCVs did I miss? 19 workers killed for Bait. Wow, that's a lot of damage to the economy there, succeeding in taking out a healthy chunk of the economy for Virus. Really equalizing that because Virus was in the lead for an extended period of time, but now we got 44 over 36. Wow, that is a lot of damage, and that is exactly what Bait needed. Even though he lost pretty much his entire force, he's now definitely put himself back in this game, especially considering the fact that they're pretty much tied on all other accounts. Siege tanks exchanging battles, but the Banshee is the difference maker, just doing just enough damage to knock out that siege tank before it could fire one more round, and that would have been substantial because, you know, there's a lot of splash damage to be had there. However, Bait does have a tenuous grasp right now on his stranglehold. Those 2 siege tanks are pretty much the only thing that differences that holds Virus back, and with that Viking out now, he's going to have air superiority. There's really nothing to deny him the fact that his siege tanks are going to be able to outrange the siege tanks from Bait, forcing the pullback from Bait. However, that Viking's going to have to be very, very careful. There goes the stem. The Marauder pushing forward to take out one of those siege tanks. The other 2, though, very nice spread out. I think Virus is going to have to just be grateful to the fact that he's held off the Banshee harassment. He's held off the inevitable siege tank push from Bait, and he's working on a lot of tech. He's got +2 on the way, +2 on the way for Bait also, as well as the +1. Has +1 already been researched? No, it has. Yeah, 1-1 for Virus. Absolutely fantastic there for both players, really. Working on that upgrade in conjunction with this continual aggression. The single siege tank being very ballsy, pushing forward. He's only within range of 1, winning that by just 13 health. I would expect to see another hero marine suicide in, but they're just digging around and trying to make it so that they can pull different straws. It looks like a sneaky orbital command was trying to sneak off into the top left-hand side. However, the drop from Bait had succeeded in scouting in, and I think that's going to get cleaned up completely. Really, that Banshee needs to get in there and just fire 1 round on top of that siege tank to clean it up. Will that orbital command go down? I mean, he's so close to home. He could land and throw down a mule, and I think that's going to be all the aggression coming out of Bait for the time being. There goes the hero Marauder, stemming in, taking out the siege tank, but falling to the other siege tank. Let's check up the unit compositions right now. We got 2 Vikings out on the field for Bait, which is going to take back the air superiority that he lost once the first Viking had come out from Virus. And we do have 5 siege tanks versus 4 siege tanks, but Virus has the defender's advantage. He's got his units up on the high ground, as well as the fact that he can kind of bully Bait, especially almost succeeding in taking out that other siege tank. Both players really want to take a third right now, but only Bait can afford to. He is constructing his command center. He's going to be making that into an orbital command in relatively short order, and he's got the harvester count to saturate it pretty much instantly, especially when gas is concerned. And as the unit counts progress, I think we're going to see gas being used extensively by Bait because you know, he's using these tanks to great effect. I think if he mixes in some Hellions instead of this heavy Bioforce, he's already worked on that bio upgrades. I think this is the unit composition he's going to stick with. I don't know. I think both players wanted to wrap this up by the mid game, and now that we've succeeded in almost transitioning to the late game, it's very awkward to see this low econ. Banshee getting cleaned up by the Marines in the bottom side, just being supported by that medevac, just shows you how incredibly successful they are. But this siege tank line, this siege tank contained from Bait, is very intimidating. First Viking from Bait is poking in, just going to be cleaning up the Viking from Virus. Oh, he's barely surviving. Neither player really wants to walk over the marine ball that's underneath both players, but as time progresses, Bait has got that third up. He's saturating that gas. He's going to have just more of everything in very short order. The siege tank trade is definitely going to be coming out in the favor of Bait. Resources lost tab is totally neck and neck. Bait just showing you this is why he lost to Cheese, because he's so good at the mid game. This is really neat Tech Lab is going to get focused down. Expending a scan for that, especially whenever you have a Viking and such readily available, is very surprising. And here comes the pull of SCVs. Virus is prepared to break the contain, but that siege tank line is so well spread out. Look at the concave on that. The Marauders absolutely chewing apart. None of the siege tanks are sieged, but they need to push even farther forward, so that's probably ultimately a good decision. Man, this is so neck and neck. I'm really surprised that Virus was so cost effective in that push. I thought for sure it was destined to fail. Enough Marines remain to clean up the Vikings before they clean up the ground force, but man, Virus has his work cut out for him. All Bait has to do is rally his forces to protect his third, and he has this game pretty much won, because that was a substantial loss to all those SCVs. Only 8 SCVs remain, no minerals at all. This is definitely a make it or break it, and I don't think enough remains in Virus's main force to actually protect him. 3 siege tanks against 3 siege tanks, 18 versus 19. But as time progresses, that number is just going to get larger and larger in the favor of Bait. 52 versus 111 for the supply count. Oh, Virus, I'm so sorry, buddy, but you're going to have to tap out as these siege tank lines absolutely demolish the Marines. Virus does indeed GG out. Fantastic play, and you know what? That is good news for us, because we're going to Game 3, and Game 1 was fantastic. Game 2 was hilariously good, and I'm looking forward to Game 3. So I will see you guys later. I am Big and Scary.